Alright, so now what we need to do is set up another thing for if our player, if the enemy hits the player, and to set up that we can score. So let's set up the enemy hitting the player first, because that's much more of that's more difficult than the previous. So we already have this enemy hit here, so we're just going to piggyback off of that. So you see it says for variable blah blah. So it's already going to test every variable for the enemy here, right? And then it says if the enemy hit test bullet container. So right now it's testing for from here to here. It's testing if it hits if it hits the bullet, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it with the player. So you can look, I kept my things nice and organized here, so you can see the bottom braces there, and this one's braces there. So I'm just going to go right after this one and do another if enemy. Actually, I'm just going to copy this whole little bit here. So just copy this whole thing. Control C or Command C, Control V. So enemy, blah blah blah, hit test object, but instead of bullet container, I want it to be player. Okay, so it's just going to be this guy here, and then I'm going to hit enter, and all we're going to do, this is actually pretty easy, that's just going to mean that we lose. So that'll be, we'll just do this for now. I'm just going to do trace, and we'll just say you lose. Alright, and we'll just go like that, and I'm going to hit, oops, crap, that's, yeah, I wrote it poorly, like that. Alright, now let's do it. Okay. And you'll see, so I can kill these guys. But watch, when he hits me, you'll see it says, you lose. Alright, so that's working fine. Alright. So that's all good. And so now what we can do is we can actually, I'm going to say this real quick. So what we're going to do is we'll have this, end. But what I'm going to do also is keep track of score. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the this text tool here. Make sure it's dynamic, not static. It needs to be dynamic. I'm just going to go ahead and use this font. You can choose whatever one makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Oops, open back up. And the other thing you need to do is you need to make sure you embed it. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, all characters, and then I usually just like to copy what the bold and ITC, and then I'll hit OK. And you'll look in your library and you'll see, there it is right there. Otherwise, it'll just say font. This way I know what font it is if you have multiple fonts embedded. But that's a requirement in order for us to interact with, not to interact with it, but in order for it to be able to generate the text in there, we need to embed it. Now I need a color, and let's do like, I don't know, click on this. Let's do like a nice kind of yellow color that would go against this pretty well. Hit OK. And I'm just going to put the score up here, and we'll do, I'm just going to make this left aligned. We'll do score, okay, and we'll do 0. All right, and that looks fine. I'm just going to size this up a little bit like that. All right, and lastly, I need a name, and we'll just call this score text, so I know what it is. And I also did not put that on a layer, so I'm going to click on this. I should have done this first. I'm going to make a layer above player, and I'm just going to call it text. And I'm just going to grab this, and I'm going to Control X, and then do Control Shift V. If you hold Shift, when you paste it, it'll paste it in the same place it was already in. And now that's already on. I'm going to lock these. Now that's on its own layer, on this text layer. Okay, so now I can interact with that. And every time my bullet hits a character, I'm just going to add to that. It's going to be pretty easy. So click on my scripts here, and just add it into here. So before we do that, I need to make a variable that's going to hold my score. So variable my score, and it's going to be of a type int, and we'll set it initially to 0. Okay. And the other thing I'm going to do also while I'm here is I'm going to do my score dot text is equal to 0. Oops, actually equal to, sorry, score space, some whatever, and then I'm going to concatenate it. And then I can't just write my score, because what will happen is my score, if you look, is an int. And text, This is the text attribute of this object that I named my score. I can't just put in my score, because the problem with that is that this is an int. It's not a string. So I have to convert it to a string. So there's a pre-built function. You do string, and then in parentheses, it'll convert whatever's inside these parentheses into a string. And so then I can actually put that in there. So all this is doing is just going to take this. It's actually going to look exactly the same because my score is already 0. But so if I hit Control Enter. Property text through a reference with static type. Okay, line 14. Text string my score. Access a possible undefined property text through a reference with a static type. Variable my score int text. This is dynamic. Okay. File errors. I used the same name as this is not the right thing. This thing is actually called score text. So that's why I'm kind of an idiot. Alright, so sorry, it shouldn't be my score, it's score text.text. Okay. And if I Control Enter, it's gonna look exactly the same, but you'll see it up on the top here. Say score. And it doesn't change. But just to give you an idea, let's say I wanted to set it to 1. If I put in 1 here, you're going to see that score will become score 1. See? Okay. Now, the reason why I'm setting it to 0 here, why I'm actually even bothering to write in the beginning, is that when we reset this, I want the score to reset back to 0. By default, it won't do that. So, down here, I can just copy this code. So I'll just retype it. That way you can see it again. So it's going to be my score, and it's going to be plus equals 1. So every time that we, inside this enemy hit, every time that we hit an enemy, it's going to add to my score plus 1. So plus equals means take what my score is and then add 1 to it. And then I'm going to go ahead and update my score text here. So was it just called score text? Yep, score text. So score text .text, the text attribute of it, and we're going to make it equal to score space boom, and we're going to plus and string, and it's going to be my score, like that. Okay, so it's going to update it with my score every time we hit. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'm just going to test it, and boom, and you're going to see that now I get a new score. Okay, so yay, it's great. Oh boy. Okay. Must be a child of color. Some song. Okay. So, yay. Alright, so that's working pretty good. Now, what I want to do is... oh, now we need to make it so we can lose. So, to do that, I'm just going to do the menu like this. I'm going to go ahead and save this. So we're going to go here, and we're going to take this line here. I'm going to click here, hold Shift, click there. I'm going to move it over to frame 2. And let me make this bigger so we can see a little bit better. Okay. And then I'm going to make a layer above player but below text. And I'm going to call this start end screen. And in this layer, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just going to draw what I want my background to be. So I don't need any stroke, and we'll just make the background kind of a deep purple color, we'll say. We'll go like that. So, oops, I don't need this one, I need the background. So let's go again like this, and I'm just going to draw a shape, so that'll be my background color. And then I'll do some text. And be nice if it was the same color. Let's do this. Let's go to here, and I'm just going to go ahead and where are you at? Text here. Click on this. I'm just going to sample this color. Damn it! Oh, come on, give me the color. There we go. So I got that color. All right, I'm going to go back here, and it's on the type tool. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to make a name for it. We're going to call it. What was this one called? Oh, Congula. I don't know. because it's like galagaTut. I don't know. It's a stupid name. And I'm going to center align that. And we'll call it that. And let's make that a little bit bigger too, actually. So what are we at? 48. Let's try 72. Let's see, is that too big? No, it's okay. Okay, Kongola. And then you could just make custom graphics in here too. But in my case, I'm just going to take my guy that I have here and just plop them in here as well so that it looks like something. Okay. And that looks fine. So now what I want to do is we're going to call this the start screen. You, again, should make yours a little bit nicer, but this will be fine for what we have. So what I want to do is I'm just going to select this. I have to have something selected in order to use the code snippets. And I just want to do a mouse click event. So I'm going to double click on that. And it's going to say that I don't care. Go ahead and create a handler. I'm going to delete all this extra business. And what I want to do is, I don't want it to be that I have to click on this guy. Now, if you had a start button or something, you could have a start button. You could actually have that's what you click on. In my case, I want that you click anywhere on the stage, and it's going to happen. So I'm just going to have it mess up. I'm going to do stage, and then I don't really care about the name. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to tell it to go to and stop on frame 2, like this. So basically when you click, it's going to automatically go to frame 2. So oh, I gotta do one other thing too. If you look, you'll see that I still see it here because the picture is still there. So on this one, I gotta right click and go ahead and insert a blank keyframe, so that way that isn't visible here. Okay. And then one more thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this one and I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna paste it here. Okay. So that'll also be our end screen. I'm gonna change it here, but I'm just gonna use this as the starter template. Okay, so now if I hit Control Enter, you're gonna see I have a start screen. Yada yada yada. Dismiss all. All right. Oh, so there's a problem. I forgot that on the first frame it's just gonna play. So I need to actually tell it to stop here as well. So while I'm still on the first frame, I'm going to code snippets, and I got to go to the timeline navigation, and I want to stop at this frame. And let's go like that. And I'm just going to Control X, Control V, like that. So that way it'll stop at the first frame. Otherwise, it's just going to keep sliding back and forth, and that's no good. There we go. So now if I click, you'll see then it goes into the game, which is fine. I haven't set up the death yet. Right now it just says you lose. All right. So let's go ahead and we'll work on my final thing here too. So if I want to change anything about this, like you lose or something, I'm just going to have it that the score's still here. So I'm going to go to the text layer. I'm going to right click and do insert frame. And so what that's going to do is it's going to extend it so that that extends into this frame as well. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is on this one, when we get hit, instead of just you lose, I can remove that. I was just doing that as a test. I want it to go to this next frame. So we're going to go to and stop, and we want to stop on frame 3. Okay, so now when you get killed, it's going to go there. The other thing I want to have happen is this. I want my score to show up right here. I just want to shift it down. So what I'm going to do is I want it to go to 128 and 315. 128 and 315. So where are you? Oh, I'm on the wrong thing here. Okay, that's why. All right, so where it says go to and stop, even before that, I'm going to do, was it score text dot x equals to 128, and score text dot y to 364, I think it was, something like that. So let's just test that. Now this is going to cause some other errors, and I'll show you how to fix that in a second. So let's just die real quick. It's going to give me an error. That's fine. Dismiss all. But you can see there's the score. Good. Okay. So what's happening is it goes to this next frame, but if you look on enter frame, so wherever I have an enter frame, it's always trying to test this. So when you go to this next thing, these objects that are created, they no longer exist, so it's freaking out. So what you have to do is you have to turn them off on every one of the enter frames. And the easiest way to do that is this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to player control here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add an if current frame. So I'm testing what the current frame is. If that is equal to frame 2, then go ahead and run this code. Okay. So, and we're basically going to add this on all of them. So this only runs if the current frame is 2. So I'm just going to copy this, Control C, and wherever it's there's a function that is an enter frame, that the event listener's enter frame. So player control has an enter frame, which means it's a looping one. Mouse click. I don't have to do that. Yeah, I shouldn't have to do that, I don't think. Although, actually, I think it's going to make a bullet when I do it. We'll leave it anyway, because it'll be fun. So right in here, this one's another enter frame. So I'm just going to Control V, because I already had that current frame. And I'm going to grab this whole bit here and tab that in. And then go ahead and add the bottom bracket to this one's top bracket. And the same thing here. Enter. Control V to paste. And I got to grab all of this business here and tab that in. And then go ahead and do that, and that should fix it. Let's see. Click on this, and then we got to quickly die. And dunk, and there you go. And it says Cone Galaga. And then I gotta go here. Now, you'll see right off the bat, I moved that score. I have to move it back now. Here, oh, not here, sorry, here. There we go, score. So it's 23 and 29. 23 and 29. Let's just do 20 and 20 because top left is fine. So what I'm going to do is at the top here, just so that it initializes, I'm also going to go ahead and do score text.x is equal to 20 and score text.y is equal to 20. Okay, and that'll just reset that position when I go back to the other thing. So we get hit, boom, and it says non-null, so that's disappointing. I don't know what happened there. And you see like that, and then yeah, the score goes. Well, I didn't have a score, so hang on a second. Let me score a couple here. All right, let's go and boom. And you can see, there we go, I got a score of 2, and when I click, the score goes back up to the top there, and I got 0. Okay. There's a couple of things where it's getting an issue. I gotta double check what that is, but for the most part, that's working. Okay, there's an error. I'll double check what that is, but I don't think it's anything too significant. It's only randomly happening. And I think that is the game. So you should be good with that. I'm just gonna save it. Yeah. So good luck.